Between all the focus and praise given by me and the footballing world on the runaway league leaders Inter Milan to just how shocking and impressive Bologna have been, the thing I want to focus on today in Serie A is Napoli. The defending Serie A champions are looking like a shell of the team they were last season, currently sitting in 7th in the table, getting knocked out of the Champions League in the round of 16 after finishing 2nd in their group. They lost in the Italian Supercoppa final and got knocked out of the Coppa Italia round of 16 by losing 4-0 to Frosinone at home. Now, they have been a little bit better recently, but for a team that won the league last season by 16 points, they are looking like half the team they used to be. But how did this happen? How did Napoli have a sudden and dramatic fall so quickly? Well, that's what we will be talking about today. So what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Back of the Net Show. I hope you're all doing well. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Last season, Napoli were just so impressive. They won the league by 16 points and breaking the drought of not winning the league for 33 years, losing just 4 games all season long in the Serie A. Now, they did get knocked out of the Coppa Italia in the round of 16, the same as this season, but it was on penalties, so it was kind of excusable. They made it to the quarterfinals of the Champions League, where they lost to AC Milan, a team that finished 18 points behind them in the league. So they weren't perfect last season, but in the league mainly, that's where they were as dominant as you could ask for. Even in the Champions League, up to their loss against AC Milan, Napoli were pretty impressive with wins over both Liverpool and Ajax, and then beating Frankfurt 5-0 on aggregate in the round of 16. Now, I know that this season they played Barcelona in the round of 16, but Barcelona were pretty injury hit, and in the most recent loss to Barcelona, losing 3-1, getting themselves knocked out of the Champions League, Barcelona were missing 6 regular first-team players due to injury, including Pedri, Gavi, Ferran Torres, Marcos Alonso, Alex Balde, and Frankie de Jong. On paper, Napoli probably should have won this tie, or at least not get bossed the way they were in the second leg. So why the sudden collapse of Napoli? Well, it all started off surprisingly with an email. I know, an email. Napoli's coach Spalletti's deal was expiring June 30th last season, and everyone assumed that Napoli would just extend his deal, give him a pay rise with it, and it should be all pretty plain sailing from there. I mean, he was a huge factor to the reason why Napoli was so good last season. But now, Napoli also had an option to extend Spalletti's deal for a further year without a pay rise. And while many clubs probably wouldn't have ever used that extension unless they really had to, being that Spalletti probably did deserve a pay rise as a way to say thank you for winning the league, Napoli's owner thought different. He sent an email to Spalletti to inform him about the fact that the option has been exercised. An email. And Spalletti, rightfully so, was offended. Not only did he not receive a pay rise after winning the league by 16 points, but this was confirmed over email. Spalletti couldn't even get told face to face what was happening. So, rightfully so, Spalletti resigned from Napoli and is now the national team coach of Italy. Added on to the fact that Napoli's then director of football left Napoli to join Juventus, it was looking a little bit dicey for Napoli. And after several coaches turned down the Napoli job, they hired French coach Rudy Garcia. Now, where was Rudy Garcia last season? Well, he was coaching Cristiano Ronaldo and Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia. Yeah. On paper, it probably wasn't a great appointment, and added on to the fact that Napoli didn't really make any huge moves in the summer to improve their team, outside of maybe Raspadori from Sassuolo, and Napoli losing arguably one of their best players last season in Kim Min-jae to Bayern. Napoli weren't in the greatest of positions going into the season, and just 12 games into the season, with the club sitting 4th but already somehow 10 points off the top, Garcia was fired. It was a pretty easy decision for the owner, as apparently some players didn't like Garcia and didn't like his way of working. But then Napoli hired ex-manager, over a decade ago he was their ex-manager, Walter Mazzarri. On paper, this wasn't also a great appointment. Mazzarri had been sacked in each of his last 4 managerial jobs, and under Mazzarri, Napoli went from bad to worse somehow, some way. With Napoli sitting 10th, 27 points off the top, and just 16 points of relegation, including a humiliating 4-0 home loss to Frosinone on the 19th of February, Mazzarri was sacked from Napoli. And Napoli, looking back at it in January, seemed a bit desperate, bringing in 4 different players, and 2 of those players are yet to even start a single game for the club. And making the situation even worse in the locker room, the club ordered Zilinski to be left out of the squad for the Champions League knockout games because Zilinski rejected a contract extension and wanted to leave as a free agent. Zilinski was arguably one of Napoli's best players over the past 6 seasons. So this again was another really weird move by by Napoli. Yes, he wants to leave, but give him game time. He is still a really good player that produces a lot for your team. So just because he wants to leave as a free agent, now you're going to punish him and your team, cutting off your nose to spite your face? Yeah. That is just a weird decision. So now you might ask, how did Napoli replace Maadi? Well, they hired the Slovakian national coach Francesco Calzona. Calzona had never been a manager of a professional club before this. Again, another very questionable decision. But be that as it may, Calzona has been a pretty decent manager right now, but I don't know how long term this is going to be. He is an interim manager, but it's still a pretty weird decision. Now, what makes this sudden collapse of Napoli so weird is that Napoli have always been a club, especially in Italy, that have always seemed to run very stably and are a well-run team, always balancing their books and always producing talent out of nowhere. But over the last year, since winning the league title, every decision that Napoli have made has just gone down really weirdly and hasn't gone down well at all. And as the time goes on, they are looking worse and worse, and they're looking further from the team that I knew last season, the team that was taken Serie A by storm, and they are being left in the dust, sitting 7th place behind the likes of Bologna. Over the last year, Napoli have been making the wrong decision after the wrong decision and seem to be in a constant scramble for any sort of stability, which is so different to the Napoli that we saw last season. It just doesn't make sense. And the thing I haven't even touched on yet is that the fact that their best player, Napoli's best player for I don't know how long now, Victor Osimhen, by all accounts is likely leaving Napoli in the summer. And how are Napoli going to replace him? I have no idea. And I'm a little bit worried for Napoli's future. But yeah, guys, that's the video. Let me know in the comments below, what have you guys thought about Napoli's downfall? Do you think they will rise again, or are you worried for their future? Let me know in the comments below. Please be sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.